Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Warrior Commission Now, where we talk about practical ways to live your Warrior Commission now in your day-to-day, moment by moment, as you grow in your relationship with God. I'm Christine Casten.
And I'm Sharon Rudolph.
And we are in the middle, or at the end, I guess, of a 3-part series where we were talking about connections and linking arms. And as we've shared, we're doing this live, and so we don't know exactly what God will bring out. And so we actually, in the last conversation, shifted gears for what the third focus is going to be about, which is great because that means it's in the moment and we're listening to the Lord. And so what we're going to do is, in this part 3, we're actually going to we're going to go a little bit deeper into the process of transformation, and we're going to walk you guys through what we've seen as part of the process of transformation, so that maybe some things that happen in that process that we don't know about or we don't expect can give you some peace and some understanding of what God's doing in the deep work in you. And so we've shifted what we were going to do into a different talk. So we'll do another talk on discipline and punishment and leadership and what healthy leadership looks like in the church at another time. So you guys might want to catch that. But Sharon, as we've had these experiences in our time in the Warrior Commission, and as we've seen person after person after person go through different types of transformation, radical transformation, suddenly types of transformation, let's talk about the process of transformation and some of the things that we've discovered as we've experienced it ourselves, and as we have also seen other people experience it. So what would you say about the process of transformation, and just I don't know, any specific words of wisdom you have about going through the process of transformation?
It is unique to each person.
Absolutely.
God has created each one of us uniquely, wired us with certain gifts and focuses and delights. And God works in our transformation with who we are. And God is not creating cookie cutter robots. This transformation process is about an exploration of the expansiveness of our diversity, our uniqueness, and the individuality present. Because we all hear in part and we all see in part, and every single voice is needed.
Right, which is the unity without conformity piece that we've talked about before.
Yes, and so and transformation is not about learning to behave well.
Right, exactly. It is not behavior modification.
No. And we have seen we've seen suddenlies. We've seen, oh, wow, light bulbs go off and everything different. And yet in other places, it's the taking steps every single day. Okay, God, what now? Okay, God, I know there's a difference here. What's going on? And it can take time. And that process is a slow moving train as opposed to a bullet train. And so, but God is in the middle of all of it to bring heart change.
Yes, absolutely.
So Christine, what would you want to share with people about finding that heart change, or how to partner with that heart change?
That's good. I think when you talk about when God does a deep work, we'll just go from that perspective. When God does a deep work in us, there is a change that happens from the inside out, right? So it is a core change within us. The core of who we are doesn't change because God created that. But what we understand, what we know, what we live out, how we steward the authority that God gives us, the favor that we gain in that process is all part of what transformation brings. And as we go through that deeper work with the Lord, there are things in us that have to be shifted. And that shifting process can feel a little bit like we are, that things aren't stable. And what I mean by that is that the way we think is starting to shift. The way we see things is starting to change. We may not have words to describe the change that God is doing in us. And that's frustrating because people are like, you seem different. You seem, you've gone into this introspective mode. What's going on? And it's like, okay, there's just a deep work that I can't describe at this moment in time.
Right.
And so you feel a little, and I use the word wonky. I don't know what other people use that word for, but it's the word I use because there are times that I feel wonky. And sometimes it's kind of this, woo, I feel wonky. This is cool. And other times it's like, oh, wow, I am like so out of sorts right now because the deep process and the deep work that God is taking me into is just very complex. And, and he's doing it. I'm just partnering with it.
Right.
And I think that it's in learning that it's okay to partner with not knowing exactly what's going on, but trusting God in it. And then within TWC, within the Warrior Commission, what we develop and what we train in as coaches, our coaches, and the development that we encourage people in is how to walk people through that process.
Right.
And how to help them identify those things that really are solid, but seem as if they're not.
Right.
When you're going through change. But and you're brilliant at asking questions about that. So do you want to share more about how you see people walk through those changes, or how you help people as they go through those changes, or your own personal changes that you've walked through?
Well, anytime we're going through transformation and we're going through change, it is all about us becoming more like Jesus. And Jesus was able to do what he did because he trusted the Father completely. He said, I don't do anything except what I see my Father doing. And I don't speak my own words. I speak what the Father is speaking. They had an intimate trust relationship, and God is moving us to that kind of intimate trust relationship.
Absolutely.
So one of the questions I love to ask is, okay, where are you seeing God in this place? How is he showing up for you? In the Warrior Commission, we train to seek out. It says knock and seek. We seek out, okay, what is God's nature here in this?
And then it says ask.
Yes, ask, knock and ask. And so that opens up possibilities for us. And it says that Jesus would go away by himself and have those conversations with God. And so in our process and in our transformation, there is a training in how to be friends with Jesus. There's that, there's some old hymns about what a friend we have in Jesus, and how many people are intentional about, okay, that's what I want. And I remember in my own life, I'd grown up in church my own life. And when someone explained to me that salvation is about relationship with Jesus, I didn't pray to get saved. I think I was already saved, but I sat on the floor of my college dorm room and said, Jesus, I want a relationship with you. And if that's real, please make it happen. Because I knew I couldn't.
Right.
So the transformation process is very much about giving permission to God to do something in us we can't make happen.
Right. Absolutely.
And we're just on the adventure. And I can honestly say it's a fun adventure.
It is a fun adventure. Yeah.
There are days when you're like, what the heck? But for the most part, it is such a fun adventure.
Well, and there's that place where he's doing those deeper works in us, and we as we go through it, we recognize the value of what happens on the other side of those particular times where you're going through the transformation. I mean, because you aren't in constant transformation. It's usually, you have a segment of transformation, and then God gives you time to let that establish.
Right.
And let's talk about establishing in just a second. But as you go through those places of transformation, what happens on the other side of that transformation is such a significant piece of how we move into that confidence and trust in God. It builds our faith. It builds our trust, so that when we're in those times of change, and things seem a little bit upside down, at the same time, we know that God's going to bring us into the place of connection with him that's much deeper on the other side of it, and much more amazing than it. And we don't want to go back. Like you never want to go back. You always say, this is beautiful, and there's more.
Yeah, and there's more.
And there's more.
And there's more.
So let's talk about establishing transformation, because God takes you into this place. You go through transformation. You're seeing things differently. You're perceiving things differently. So you've kind of entered into this new space. But what happens about how do you establish that transformation in your life?
Well, I think for me personally, there is a choice that has to be made to embrace the transformation and hold on tight.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is an enemy out there, doesn't want us to live in this new space, doesn't want us to have the blessing of the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's resistance to it.
Right.
And so we have to make a choice. This is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And this is who I am going to be. And my being is going to include this.
Yeah.
And in that choice, there are lots of little nuances that come with being who you are in this transformed place.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the words we use in our community is intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a purposefulness in life. And it's okay to go, hey, wait a minute. I'm not being who I am. God did something here, but now I'm not being that. So, I'm going to be intentional about sticking with who he said I am on the other side of that transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe purposefulness is a big piece of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And so you have the moment where God takes you through the transformation. You have the purposefulness, the intentionality of establishing the transformation. And what you're doing is, when you establish the transformation, it becomes your new default.
Yes.
So
yes.
essentially what you're doing is, when you establish that transformation, you're shifting your default. Rather than back at what the old thing was, you're shifting your default into the new place, into the new creation that God created you to be, and in that transformation process, so that you go from there instead of having to go back and redo over, like the negative cycles, right? So you start from a new place, a new launching place, and then God can take you into the next place of transformation, and you do it again. So your default line is always changing.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's awesome. Well, so is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up? Because I think that there's some deep stuff here that I feel like there's a weightiness to it that people. I would just
encourage people to start asking God questions.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the transformation you have for me?
Mm-hmm.
What's possible on the other side? How do I partner with you with more purposefulness?
Mm-hmm.
How, God, Jesus, I want to be your friend and learn to trust God like you do.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Because God's worth it. And walking with Jesus, there's no greater joy.
Right.
And you will find that all these things that cause anxiety don't cause anxiety anymore.
It's amazing how that stuff just kind of goes to the wayside.
So my encouragement would just be, start asking questions.
Yeah.
And see what God wants to do with that in your life.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Sharon, thank you for your time and just how we get to explore together. It's such a joy. I also just want to encourage you to see part 1 and 2 of this Connections Linking Arms. And also know that we post our chats on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. The live chat is actually Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. And we just want to say thank you guys for being a part of this conversation, because you bring something to the table
Yes.
when you listen. And if you'd like to know more, and if you'd like to really connect with people who are on this journey, this transformation, this growth journey, this lifestyle of growing in the Lord, we would love to see you guys join the Warrior Commission. Go to thewarriorcommission.com. There's an Apply Now tab. You're welcome to send your application in, and we would love to have you join us in the process of our journey and story.
Yes.
So thank you guys. Y'all have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.